everybody. It should be Monday, November 17th. I was sick last week, so I did not get a chance to check my emails or anything. I was out of the office, not looking at any computers, and now I am back. So I wanted to quickly just go over what is due, and we're coming to the end of the semester. I know it just went by in a blink of an eye, and I'm sorry. We never got a chance to meet in person, but here's and I will talk with anybody who wants to talk with me before the end of the semester on the phone. Last but not least, today, Monday, November 17th, by the end of the day, you should have those few paragraphs about the stock that you're choosing, and we'll talk a little bit about that during this video. Tell me a little bit about your stock, tell me where it's located, tell me how much it's selling for, tell me who the CEO is, tell me how much the company is worth, what the company does, a little bit about the company, three light paragraphs. Make sure your name is on top, type it up, attach it to an email, send it to me by the end of business today, and that's part of your semester. And then your final project, the 5 pages typed on the business that you've developed, the business plan that you've developed for your business, that is due December the 1st. So you have about 2 weeks for that. Make sure that that's complete and get that to me also for the end of the semester for your grade. Let's talk a little bit about your stocks today. So everyone knows that the optimal time to purchase a stock, which is purchasing a piece of a corporation or a company that is publicly traded, is when that stock is at its lowest. Now, how do you know when it's at its lowest? You don't. You have to it's not going to be its lowest price in history, because that probably is when it first came out. The stock first emerged as a publicly traded stock. But you're pretty much looking at what the lowest price is in the last year or two. You're looking for that moment when that stock hits the lowest price in the last year or two in order to purchase that stock. Now, why do you do that? Well, your hope is always that the stock will return to its highest. So you need to know its lowest and its highest point in the last 2 or so years. And then you start tracking the stock every day and seeing where that stock is going. Now, you want to know what the low is, so it's very easy. You just Google and you find out what the lowest price of the stock was in the last 2 years, and then you can find out what the highest price of your stock was in the last 2 years. Now, why do you want to buy low? Because obviously the hope is that the stock will not only return to its highest point, but that it will go beyond that highest point, and then you can either hold on to it or sell it. But the idea behind buying low is always that you want to get a stock that you think is going to go up again and purchase that stock. So your stock may go lower. You may purchase that stock. Let's say it's a stock that its high was $40 and its low was $30 in the last 2 years, and you buy the stock at $32 because you're not necessarily going to get it at its lowest again, and you're hoping that the stock will return to 40 and go beyond 40. So again, so you understand, the lowest point in the year was $30. The highest point in the year was that it was $40. You're purchasing the stock at $32, hoping that the stock will return to $40 and maybe even go beyond that $40. Now, you may buy it at $32, and then all of a sudden the stock goes down to $28, and you're like yelling, "Oh my God, Professor Goldstein, I've lost $4 per share, and I bought 1,000 shares. I've lost $4,000." Yeah, that could happen. Yeah, your stock. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is written in stone with stocks. It may go down. May go down to $20. It may never go back up to 40. It may keep at that level. I have a good friend, who I help trade all the time, but he also makes his own trades. And he's been holding this same stock that he bought at like $8 a share, and now it's come close. It's gone back up to like $5 or $6. but it's never returned to the $8. And he bought like 1,000 shares at $8 a share, so it's spent $8,000, and the stock has never returned to its $8 high. And there was a time, one day we were sitting there, and he called me up and he said, "It's at 6." I said, "Sell it." And he said, "No, no, no, I'm losing money." I said, "Yeah, you're going to lose money, but it's never going to go back to 8. That stock's never returning to what it once was." He goes, "No, it'll return. Of course, it went back down to 4, and he never sold it. And he looks at that stock every day with the hope that it one day returns to the 8, and there's a rally, and somebody sees something in that stock that he doesn't know, or there's somebody, or there's a huge amount of people that want to buy that stock that day, and it'll return to 8 and maybe 9 and 10 or something." But basically, he's been sitting on that stock for years now. Then again, there was a stock that I purchased when I was young. I'm talking your age, when I was in my 20s. And it was a stock that I had been following it for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And it was a stock that traded, in those days, I think it traded around $17, $18 at most times. It was never really, it had gone from, its low was like 12, its high was like 17. And I said, "Oh, this stock." And one day it went down to like 4. And I remember saying, "What's going on? This stock is a good stock. It's down at 4. I borrowed money from a friend to buy the stock with the idea that I would buy it and sell it within like 3 weeks. Well, I bought it at 4. It went up. It went up again to 21. It went up above the 17 that I had purchased it at. And I quickly sold it, and then paid the person back, took the rest of it as profit for myself, paid my taxes on it, and that stock didn't stop at 21. That stock went up to like 38. And I remember saying to myself, "Why did I sell?" Well, I sold because I made a profit, and I thought it wasn't going to go any higher, and I thought it had reached its peak, but it kept going and going and going. So you never know with the stock market. It's a gamble. It really is a gamble. It's an educated gamble. You bring to it as much education and much reading and much research as you can to it, but you try to. So now my son is around your age. He's 25, and he has a job, and having a job is very important to any young person. I think having a means of there's a self-worth about a job. I know that a lot of people don't believe that, but I think even Freud spoke about how work, love, and life were the most important things. Ooh. I truly believe that work is very important, whether it's artistic work, whether it's just getting up and doing a 9-to-5 job. I don't think, and even though I keep saying I am retired and I'm sick and blah blah blah, I still have my business. I have to deal with my business, and I have to deal with you guys and this class. So I have things that, and I have other little things that I do to make money, side projects, little things that I do. But it's important to have something to get up every day and accomplish something and make money and feel good about yourself. Even entrepreneurs who are multi-billionaires who could retire and call it a day and retire to their private islands in Hawaii or wherever they are, they still work. Working is they relax, they fly on their yacht, their planes and their yachts, and they have great times, but they work. People work because it's important to work. It's important for your soul. It's important for your head. It's important for your friends, your family, for yourself. It's important to accomplish things. And as I said, it could be, making a painting or writing a poem or, dancing a dance or acting in a play. But that's still work. And you want to be always the best at what you try to accomplish. You always want to try to give it the best you can. Now, you're not going to always be the best at it, But you want to do the best job you can. Always, always. You don't want to just sit back and be half measures. There's a Shakespearean quote about half measures not availing. What I mean by half measures is giving half an effort. There's nothing. I was watching, and I'm talking. Go back to my son and what he's investing in right now. Alex Rodriguez. There's a great. Some people love him. Some people hate him. Some people don't even know who I'm talking about. He was a player with originally with he played for the Seattle Mariners. Then he played for the Texas Rangers. Then the New York Yankees. And when he played for the Rangers and the Yankees, he was probably one of the, if not the best player in baseball, one of the best players in baseball. And he received an enormous contract for the time. It was a contract for $250 million over a number of years. And he got a lot of heat for it and a lot of negativity for it. But it didn't stop him. He was a very, very, I mean, he may have been too, my wife calls it type A, too type A, which is meaning he put too much into his job. Baseball was his life, his job, everything. And he would work out, get up at 5 in the morning, work out every day. He'd watch videotapes of his performance in the games. He was always studying what the other pitchers did so that he could be a better hitter. He was, even at the time where he could have said, hey, they're giving me $250 million, I'm going to pull back a little, take it easy. No, he doubled down on what he was doing, and he had a tremendous work ethic. Tremendous. Now, I'm going to say something. I think you have to have a work-life balance. I don't think work should be your sole focus in life. I think you need family, friends, community, all those other things that are very important, church, synagogue, mosque, whatever it is, to balance your life. But I think you need to have a good work ethic in order to do well in life. Not only, when I say to do well, not just to do well in terms of your money, to do well in terms of business, but a work ethic means satisfying yourself that you're giving your best. That's a tough one because you're your own harshest critic, right? You know yourself better than anybody. No one knows your potential better than you do. I mean, everyone, your mother may know, your father may know, your sister may know, your brother may know. But what I'm saying is, you know yourself, and to thine own self be true. How much work did you really put into that paper that you're going to do for me? How much work did you put into the stock market challenge? Now, you may say to me, Professor Goldstein, I put a lot of work into it. All right. Or you may be BSing me, and you may be BSing yourself. Did you really give it your best effort? Was it really your best? Did you work your hardest on it? Well, sometimes you might not need to work your hardest. Sometimes you're just good at what you do. You can get away with it. You don't really need to do that, that extra mile. Listen, Alex Rodriguez was a great baseball player. Had natural talents. Probably could have been a good average baseball player with his natural talents and what he achieved on his own. Would have been a pretty damn good baseball player. But a great baseball player? Well, turns out he would do anything to win. And in fact, he went into some moral lapses and cheats, and that's part of the documentary. He uses steroids to, listen, when you want to win, when you want to be the best you can be, and they're offering, it was not, at the time that he took it, it wasn't illegal, but then he did take it when it was illegal. But the truth of the matter is, when you have a good work ethic, anything is important to you. Everything is accomplishing and doing your best is extraordinarily important to you. And I saw that, and maybe most of you see this with your family. I always see it with my father. My father, who worked very hard every day. No complaining. no judgment. Every day he got up early in the morning, put on a suit and tie in those days, went to worked till late in the evening, worked on weekends. Work was very important to him. Accomplishing things were very important to him. Getting things done, achievements were very important to him. Getting recognition for his work was not important to him. He really believed that the work was the most important thing, that his job was important, that he really was helping people. And he went on to become, an educator and a president of a college, and he helped many young people succeed in life. People come up to me to this day and thank me and remember my father fondly. Work was very important to him. There are doctors like that. There are firemen like that. There are nurses like that. There are teachers like that. There are people who come up to you. There are business people. Oh my God. I had an uncle who owned a business in a little town in upstate New York. When he passed away, and now you're saying to yourself, oh, you're dead. What does it matter? But it's true. When he passed away, hundreds and hundreds of people came to the funeral. He was beloved. He would give sandwiches to people. He would, who couldn't afford it. He was always helping people. He would do things. He would have, there would be a school trip, and he would provide the food and the bus ride for the school trip for the kids. He was always active in relationships with people in town and community. He took his little store in this little town, and it became an act of charity. And he worked so hard, 7 days a week. All the time he was in that store, always helping people out, always working hard, always doing things. And he taught me at a very young age. He said, listen, his idea was, he said, how many cars do I need? How many houses do I need? How much of this? He goes, I live my life to feel good about myself. He said, I could have had more stores. I could have done more things. He goes, but I'm very happy with what I have and the people that I work with every day and I communicate with every day. He was a wonderful man, almost like saintly. Okay, back to the stocks. So my son is investing right now. So my son has a job right now, and he's doing extremely well. He's in sales, and he's very proud of himself. I think some days he comes home sad because he did not sell as much. He does phone sales to targeted marketing. So people who are interested in the product that he has to sell, which is home roofing and windows for homes. He gets lists of people who are somehow they're found out on the computer that they are interested in getting their windows done or their roofs done. Every time you type into your computer or your phone, somebody's reading that and somebody's buying that. So just be very careful what you type. So he targets these people. He calls them up, and all he has to do he makes a base salary. This is pretty much what sales is all about. If you've ever had a sales position, you either can get a base or not a base, depending on what the company is offering, and depending on if you're a really good salesman or not. Most high-end salesmen don't even get bases because they make their quota of sales very early and they don't need the base. They make their money from a percentage of their sales. He gets a base salary, and then for every appointment he sets, in other words, every person that he speaks to and he makes an appointment with them, he gets a certain amount of money from his company. So if he sets, let's say, 15 appointments for the next day for his people to go in and try to sell. So what happens is once he sets an appointment, then a salesman goes to your home and tries to sell you on, they do a whole review of your house, and then they give you an estimate and they try to sell you on it's a free estimate, and they come in and they review whether or not you need new windows, new roof, and how much it's going to cost you. And then if that salesman sets the appointment and then makes the sale, he gets an additional sum of money. So, in other words, let's say he gets $100 for every appointment he makes, and then he gets another $100, or if the salesman actually makes the salesman gets a percentage of the sale. So that salesman who goes to the home makes much more money, and they usually do not work on a base plus a salary. They just work on total commission. And so, let's say they sell you a new roof and new windows for your house, and it comes to $30,000. They get, let's say, I think it's something like 6 or 7%, 7% of the actual sale. So that's cash money in your pocket every, So if you make, one of those a day, that's not a bad living. So my son has now been saving his money from his job, and putting it into CDs, high earning CDs at a bank, certificates of deposit, and they depending on if it's a year long CD or 2 year long CD, they earn 2, maybe 3% interest. Not a lot of interest on the money you put in. So if you put $10,000 in, you get $300 at the end of the year, or at the end of 6 months. Not a lot of money. So he's started to put his money into the stock market also, slowly. I've told him, listen, let's not put all your money in the stock market. You don't want to lose all your money. You just earn this money. Let's figure out ways of investing for the long term where you're not going to need the money right away. So I've been putting him into some stocks that I consider, and I can't do this with you because I'm not allowed legally to do that, but I've been putting him into some what I call blue chip stocks, which are stocks that are have been around a long time, that probably will not earn him a lot of money each year, but they'll earn more than the average stock is making in the stock market, if you understand what I mean. So if the stock market every year earns 6 or 7%, on average, I hopefully have put them into stocks that are earning 10 to 15% earnings over a long period of time. Average earnings over a long period of time. Sometimes they may go down, sometimes they may go up. These are not risky stocks. These are stocks that I think will be around hopefully 10 years from now. And I told him, listen, if you can hold on to these stocks for 10 years and not cash them out, they will earn you pretty much 10% a year for the next 10 years if the economy does okay. Not bad, not great, not bad, but does okay, as based upon what they've done in the past, based upon what I see their future earnings as, based upon what I think Americans and Europeans and Western civilization likes to do with that. I think these stocks will do well. And so he's taken my advice, and some of them he's bought on his own, and some of them he's bought with what I've told him to. I said, but listen, don't buy these stocks and then expect to make money right away and then sell those stocks. No, that's not the way it works. These are long-termers. You hold on to these 10 years at least, and then we'll see what happens in 10 years if I'm around. We'll see if they're doing as well as I thought they would be doing. And then he took my advice on that, and then he bought some short-term stocks that he thinks he's going to make some money on quickly and sell quickly and buy something else with. So he has taken his first step into the stock market. He has done his own research. I've done research for him. We've combined our research. It's fun. It's fun when you do it with someone else. I usually do it on my own. It's fun because I get to learn about different stocks. By the way, I've learned more over the years from my students than I have from anyone else. Sometimes I had a student years ago who told me about some stocks I had never heard of. I actually did my research, looked into them, and bought a few and did very well with them. There's all types of industries and so forth that someone like me, who's an old man, doesn't know about. And so you guys are much more on the cutting edge. You know more than I do about what's happening in the world, what's relevant in the world, what new companies are developing, what new trends are developing. You need to use that youth that you have in purchasing stock, or preparing for your future. In other words, you have a clearer vision of what's going to be happening in the next year or two than I do. And that's not, it's not always the case. There are older people who do know younger trends, but not me. I'm someone who, I still read a newspaper, and I still, drink, Diet Pepsi instead of, an energy drink. And I have a lot of trouble texting, and, getting my apps and, doing all this stuff. I am still very old school. I grew up without computers. I grew up without cell phones. I grew up without all this modern AI technology. So you guys are much more prepared to look into what is happening and then use that knowledge as an advantage in purchasing stock. Stock will be around, even into the future. You may have a sincere advantage now with AI. AI may be able to discern what companies are going to do well and what companies aren't. I am sure that there are now financial companies that are utilizing AI in terms of how they purchase and when to sell. I don't know how you guys would use it because I'm not that familiar with it, but I think you could probably go to AI and look up the prices of stock, what companies are doing, the trends with the company, the highest and lowest stock, where the company is going, how the leadership is perceived, how the company is doing, any new products the company is coming up with, any new services the company is coming up with. So you can use AI to develop a knowledge about the stock market that I did not have. As I said, I would have to go to the library in my day to look up